I think we all remember back in 2016 when Donald Trump was first running for president, when the Democrats were coming out and saying Donald Trump does not have the temperament to be president. If Donald Trump is elected president, we are going to see wars, and it's very dangerous because of who Donald Trump is, how he talks, how he speaks. And then Donald Trump was elected. And what happened? We had 4 years of no war. Very interesting. It's almost like the Democrats are actually the warmongers now. But I don't think that's completely true. I do believe there are some rogue individuals within the Republican Party, such as Nikki Haley, that are war hawks as well. But Donald Trump is definitely not a war hawk. In fact, he's making it a key part of his presidential campaign to speak out against war, against these global wars. Because, like I say, Donald Trump is America first in these wars that are going on, that we hear about, these rumors of wars that we hear about. Possibly might be going to war with Iran. War in Ukraine, we got that proxy war where we're supplying tons and tons of ammo and munitions to Ukraine to fight Russia. And then, of course, Israel and Palestine and their conflict. And who knows, all the countries that will draw in. There's talks of World War III. We hear about it almost on a daily basis. When is World War III going to happen? But Donald Trump, he's one of the only candidates, him and Vivek Ramaswamy, are the only candidates really who are coming out actively pushing back against the war narrative. Trump specifically saying that if he is elected president, actually, let me rephrase that. He's actually saying he is the only person that could stop World War III, because you look at it and what is going on today with Israel and Palestine, Ukraine and Russia, just within 3 years of a Biden presidency, we are seeing wars pop up everywhere. And of course, the United States is rushing as fast as possible to get involved in every single one of them. But Trump has a different narrative, and he says he's the only one that can prevent World War III. And I, for one, believe him, if not only for his track record, where he went an entire 4 years without there being war. And it's very interesting to look at, because it's like the opposite of what the mainstream media were saying about Donald Trump. It's the opposite of what Hillary was saying about Donald Trump. It's almost like they have an agenda. But let's get into this article, guys, by the Post Millennial. Trump urges Democrats, Republicans, and independents to unify and put Americans first during passionate Veterans Day speech. At a Veterans Day rally in New Hampshire on Saturday, former President Donald Trump urged voters who don't want to see their sons and daughters be drafted to fight in foreign conflicts to vote for him. He also called for Americans across the political aisle to unify and put their country and its people first. America first. This is what we should be. Any candidate that starts talking about foreign wars, that starts talking about Ukraine, that starts talking about Israel, when that's the first thing out of their mouth, instead of talking about the border, our cities, our culture, our society, those four things that are absolutely in shambles, when they start talking about foreign countries and getting involved in foreign conflicts, you know that that candidate is not America first. We should be the priority. This country that we live in, people. These politicians, they're running to be leaders in the country of the United States of America. But somehow when they talk and they speak, all of a sudden they're talking about other countries and how we need to be involved in this country and that country, and they use everything they can to justify why we should be involved in these different conflicts. And it usually has something to do with a buzzword about democracy, or a buzzword about Israel, or an anti-Semitism, and I mean, you name it. They will come up with a justification. But those candidates, are Trojan horses. They are not. They don't care about you. They don't care about America. They care about the company that is backing them. The giant corporation, the war machine, Lockheed Martin, you name it, Boeing, those corporations, that's who they care about. They care about advancing the war machine, keeping the ball rolling, and maintaining the status quo. In the speech, former President Donald Trump declared whether you are a Democrat or Republican, and if you don't want your sons and daughters drafted to fight and die in distant foreign lands that many of you have never heard of before, then you have to vote for a gentleman named Donald J. Trump. Trump noted that the global wars are needless and never end. Reading this gives me chills, and I will play the video for you guys here in a second. He said they go for years, 21, 22 years in Afghanistan. Think of it, 21 years. Too bad it carried out that long. He's absolutely right. And who did this benefit? Do you think it benefited the United States, really? It benefited someone. Definitely didn't benefit Afghanistan. It benefited the corporations, the war machine. It raised their stock prices. It's interesting to think about. We were coming out of Afghanistan, he said. You know, I'm the one who got it down to 2,500 troops. Speaking about his record as the commander-in-chief, former President Trump said, I fully rebuilt the U.S. military. I created Space Force. And I was the first president in decades who didn't start a war. He added, instead, I got us out of the endless wars and brought back our troops. He claimed that with the Abraham Accords, he brought peace to the Middle East. Trump noted that there hasn't been a single country added to the accords since he left office, saying it's because the Biden administration is incompetent. And he said, look, Biden is the most corrupt and most incompetent president in the history of our country. I, for one, agree. I think he's both corrupt and incompetent. I think right now he's just an old, senile guy. He's in office. I think he's just too old. He's almost too old to be corrupt, but he was so corrupt in the past that he's still corrupt as an old, senile guy. You know what I mean? I mean, sometimes he seems like he's got his wits about him, but there's most of the times where you look at the guy and you wonder how he is actually fulfilling his duties of the office that he occupies. And he's just propped up, and a lot of people use this example of Weekend at Bernie's. He's propped up like this lifeless corpse. People are moving him around, like a puppet because there's nothing there. He's a skin suit. Nothing really up here. He's just been so in the machine for so long that he is the machine now. He's evolved. He is the machine. He's just, all he is just a walking government machine controlled by all these different powers and all these different corporations and a lot of foreign interests as well. But the comments come at a time when the U.S. has provided military aid to Ukraine. Since Russia invaded the nation in February of 2022, more recently, Biden vowed to provide Israel with everything they need in an escalating conflict between the Jewish state and Hamas stemming from October 7th terrorist attack. But let's check out this video, guys. This is Donald Trump in New Hampshire talking about if you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent and you don't want your daughters or sons drafted to fight and die in distant foreign lands, then you need to vote for Trump.
So whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or independent, if you don't want your sons and daughters drafted to fight and die in distant foreign lands that many of you have never even heard of, if you don't want your nation wrecked, if you don't want your economy destroyed, if you don't want American blood and American treasure squandered in a needless global war, you see it, they never end. They go for years, 21, 22 years. In Afghanistan, think of it, 21 years. Too bad it carried out that long. We were going to get out of We were coming out of Afghanistan. I'm the one that got it down to 2,500 troops. But I was going to keep Bagram. Bagram is one of the biggest air bases in the world. Cost us billions of dollars years ago, billions and billions of dollars. Has the biggest, most powerful runways, meaning the thickest concrete of any place. I think it's 8 feet. I used to go, when I was building, I'd like to go 4 inches, and I'd negotiate. Maybe we can do it for 3.5. These things are many feet thick, most powerful most powerful runways and everything else. And they gave it back. They gave it all back. But you have to put people that know what to do. And if you want to get back to where we have to go, you have to vote for a gentleman named Donald J. Trump. That's all I can say.
I completely agree. I mean, guys, watching Trump, the liberals, the leftists, they wonder why people like Trump. It's because of these things that he's talking about. He's talking about putting our country first. He's talking about things that other candidates aren't talking about. And specifically, it's the fact that he's talking about our country and finding ways to improve our country, getting our country out of these conflicts, making sure individuals and citizens of our country aren't overseas dying in endless wars. That should be the number one thing. Peace. That should be the number one thing these candidates are talking about. How to maintain peace. But instead, you listen to the rhetoric of those like Nikki Haley, of those like, I know Pence is not running anymore, but those types of candidates, all they talk about is escalation. We must do this. We must do that. Iran is going to do this, and Hamas is evil. And it's all language of escalation, not language of how are we going to figure this out? How are we going to be able to put this conflict to rest and have peace with the loss of as little lives as possible? That's not happening. Negotiation is off the table with a lot of these candidates. Because when you negotiate, you come to some sort of agreement, that's billions of dollars lost by Lockheed Martin and Boeing. That's billions of dollars lost by companies like BlackRock. And those companies want their piece of the pie. That's why you have Nikki Haley's out there who just come out to the podium and she has her cheerleaders of the Washington Post and the New York Times who say that she wins these debates even though she was absolutely trounced by Vivek Ramaswamy. He was the loser, didn't you know? And you look at that and you begin to wonder, like, what's really going on? But that's what's happening, guys. It's power. It's money. War equals money. And that's why Donald Trump is so appealing to the American people, to those of us that are on the right that care about our country here at home. And that's what other politicians, other candidates should be talking about. Maybe they will have more support if they did. But unfortunately for them, Donald Trump and Vivek really are the only ones that embody this idea of America first. And I think he is absolutely correct. He is the only candidate out there right now that we can really trust to make sure that the United States is going to be involved in these massive wars. But what do you guys think of this speech that Donald Trump gave? Do you agree that he is our only hope when it comes to ending these wars? Do you think he will prevent World War III? Let me know what you think about this. Leave your comments down below and smash that like button and follow my page. I'd really appreciate that. But until then, I will see you on the next one.